Hello. Good morning, gang. I can't tell you how, my name is Jay Duffy. I've known Mr. Courage since approximately the age of 7. Certainly been a mentor of mine, a positive male role model. He taught me the importance of detail and pride. I recall Mr. Courage, a little anecdote. He was certainly a presence in my first job at West Street Grocery. I recall him coming in, and he was someone that was very respected. He was a presence. I remember being in my front yard on West Street, them doing construction out front, and he was a presence, an honorable presence. We all have our Bob Courage memory, I'm sure. I'd like to thank a few people today that I certainly couldn't have pulled this off. I've been working on this for a little over a year, and I approached Mr. Courage about a year and 2 months ago, asking him if we did some type of tribute. 70 years is certainly nothing to blush at, and how many towns and municipalities can say they have a public servant of 70 years? Not many. Who's still very much involved. Water commissioner, current water commissioner, and we have a huge water project coming up this summer, the water utilities, as you all know. So when I approached him, I didn't get a yes, but I didn't get a no. So I then approached Sandra, and she said, go with it. So spoke with his children, Sarah, John, Brian, his sister Barbara, brother-in-law Morris, and they've been wonderful all the way through. I'd like to thank the Keys trustees, Janet Langdell, Mr. Infante, Tim Finan, for purchasing the plaque, which we'll unveil today. The plaque will be hanging outside of the vestibule at the office next door. They have been outstanding. The plaque is very honorable. Not over the top, because I know Mr. Courage would get after me for that. I'd also like to thank Woodman's for the flowers. The selectmen have been great, Town Administrator Daly. Finally, a huge thank you to, and he's not going to like me for saying this, but it's the facts, to Director Lassard, Mr. Courage's successor, who in many estimations is certainly the new Bob Courage. But without him and Neil Beauregard, his right-hand man, and the DPW boys, I certainly couldn't have pulled this off, and they've been outstanding. And as you can see, this is the result. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce and welcome Reverend Hoyt, who will do the invocation.
I'm the Reverend Alan Hoyt from the First Congregational Church here in Milford, where Bob and Sandy have been members for many, many years. Please join me in an attitude of prayer. Holy One, we come together today on this gorgeous spring day to thank you for the lives of Bob and Sandy Courage, for their many, many years of service, for all of the ways that Bob continues to serve our community and our God. We thank you for all of the ways that he has contributed, all of the things that he has done. We thank you for the ways that he has made this community better. In your many holy names we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Next, I'd like to welcome a town employee of, last I knew, 39 years, I think we're counting, Miss Tammy Scott, who is our recycling center supervisor, who has certainly been not only an employee of Bob's, but also a personal friend.
Hi, Bob and Sandra. Hi. Welcome. I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to Bob. He hired me back in the 80s, and that's when we had the old town garage out behind Cumberland Farms. We started out there, and he needed somebody to direct traffic. So I came in for one day for an interview, and he said, "You're hired." I want you tomorrow morning. I said, okay, I'll be there. And as time went on, I was on the water department, cemeteries, DPW, whatever was needed, I was there. And then he had a job that came up, and it was at the transfer station. And at that time, his wife was there being the scale attendant. And so he brought me over there, and I went in for my interview with her and came back out. And next he said, well, do you want the job? And I said, sure, I'll take the job at the transfer station. I don't know anything about it, but I'll take it. And here I am, 40 years later, still with the town. And I just want to say thank you, Bob. You've been our inspiration. We didn't really know him as Bob. He was called the Godfather. And that's what he was known to all of us as, was the Godfather back then, for the ones that are still here with him. But Bob, thank you, and thank you to Sandra for all the years of putting up with all our meetings and all our little going out to different recycling centers and all our, just everything. And to the kids, because I've been around with the kids since all these years. So just thank you, and you're going to be with us for the next longest time. I can say that. We need you. So we'll see you at the transfer station. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Just a little anecdote. When I was working on this with Sandra, when Bob was out on his excursions, and Sandra commented how, Bob worked hard, but I did a little bit too. We'd pull up to the DPW center in the middle of a snowstorm, and he'd say, I'll be out in 10 minutes. 3 hours later, I'm still in the car. So we want to thank Mrs. Courage, and this beautiful flower arrangement from Woodman's is on behalf of the town for Mrs. Courage, because without her, the town certainly would be what it is today also. Let's hear a round of applause. There's also a few VIPs here today that I certainly want to acknowledge. This is certainly the Milford I was brought up with. It takes a village, and as a lot of us locals are, we were really blessed to have what we've had in Milford, certainly years ago. Mr. Courage was certainly an important part of my village. But as I said, there's a few VIPs here. His classmates from Milford High School when it was down at Bales. If we give a warm welcome to Miss Kathy Heald, Miss Joan Tierney, Miss Nancy Schooley, Chief Tortorelli and his wife Barbara, Jeannie Philbrick. This is all from the realm. This is all from the realm of that time. Marianne Buffelli, Bill Newbold, and finally Alan White. If I left anyone out, I apologize, but once again, how many towns can say they have a community such as this? I'd next like to invite Representative Pete Petrino. He's going to be presenting a proclamation from Governor Sununu on his behalf.
Thank you, Jay, and congratulations, Bob and Sandra. So I'm State Representative Peter Petrino, and on behalf of the Milford delegation at the State House in Concord, it was my honor and privilege to request and receive a proclamation from His Excellency the Governor proclaiming today to be officially Robert Bob Courage Day in Milford, New Hampshire. And of course, that is appropriate considering the many years of service that Bob has given to the state and to our town, going all the way back to 1954, when I was born. And without any further ado, I'd like to read this proclamation. In the year of our Lord, 2024, Robert Bob Courage Day in Milford, April 21st, 2024. Whereas Robert Bob Courage began his career with the Milford Department of Public Works in June of 1954, and whereas Robert Bob Courage served as the director of the Milford Department of Public Works for 38 years, and whereas Robert Bob Courage has served the town of Milford in numerous capacities, including selectman, member of the Budget Advisory Committee, the Planning Board, and the Board of Adjustments, and whereas Robert Bob Courage is currently serving as the Milford Cemetery Trustee and Water Commissioner, And whereas Robert Bob Courage has served the town of Milford with honor and distinction for 70 years, now therefore I, Christopher T. Sununu, Governor of the State of New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim April 21st, 2024 as Robert Bob Courage Day in Milford in the state of New Hampshire, and has extended my heartfelt appreciation and best wishes to Robert Bob Courage for his dedicated service to the town of Milford on the occasion of his retirement. In testimony whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the state of New Hampshire to be affixed. Signed, Christopher T. Sununu, Governor of New Hampshire. Congratulations.
Thank you, Rep. Petrino. Mr. Courage is retired, as we all know, from as 38-year DPW director full-time. However, he is still currently and has many more years as a water commissioner. I recall when I was 11 years old, as most of you will recall, when the town meeting would be up at the high school on West Street, and those were the days when they'd have a microphone boy. And the meetings would get a little heated. I think I was paid $2 an hour to run the microphone. I was into it even back then. And I recall being there, it'd be midnight and 1 a.m., and Bob Philbrick and Saruch Ricciardi and May Gaffney, and the cigarettes would be flying, and Artie Barrett and Bert Prespatino would be going at it. And I remember, I knew who Mr. Courage was, but I remember, he was a presence, as I said, and I recall very vividly the loud voices be going on and back and forth, and then Mr. Bob Courage would get up to the microphone. And I vividly remember you could hear a pin drop. Silence came across the room. And as an 11-year-old boy, I remember thinking, wow, this guy's got presence, this guy's got something, respect. And when he spoke, whether it was for the new bulldozer, whether it was for the new warrant article for the new road, it passed. Because the townspeople knew that when Bob Courage spoke, it was necessary, because he didn't speak. And as we all know, he doesn't speak unless it's necessary. And I'll tell you, I admire that. And I try every day to be like that. Many times during the day, it's like, what would Bob Courage do? And as you see, the town has certainly benefited as a result of that. Without further ado, I'd like to invite Representative Vanessa Sheehan, who will be serving a commendation from the House of Representatives.
It is good to remember, and it's good to give honor to whom honor is due. And I just want to thank you, both of you, Mr. and Mrs. Courage, for giving your lives to serve Milford. Thank you. Be it known that the New Hampshire House of Representatives extends its congratulations to Mr. Robert E. Courage in recognition of his dedication and service to the town of Milford. And be it further known that the New Hampshire House of Representatives extends its highest accolades to Robert for his more than 70 years of outstanding work as the Director of the Department of Public Works, Selectman, and member of numerous committees to which he generously gave his time and counsel. We wish him the very best as he leaves behind his legacy of service and his wealth of institutional knowledge to the next generation. Signed, Sherman A. Packard, Speaker of the House.
Thank you, Representative Sheehan. So I'd like right now to read, unfortunately, Dale White and Leighton was unable to be here today. They had a church event along with the chapels. However, Dale asked me to read this on his behalf. As most of you know, Dale is a water commissioner along with Mr. Courage and Hunter Philbrick. So Dale says he will reach out to you later in the week. He's sorry to have prior commitments. Robert has become not just a colleague, but a true friend. To think growing up next to the DPW department on Bridge Street, I watched as a little kid every day Robert and his men go to work and return back to the barn every afternoon. And to think 50-some years later, I have the true privilege of working shoulder to shoulder with Robert. Robert truly is the perfect definition of a public servant, the highest compliments, the highest regard. Good luck today, Mr. Courage, Robert, and hope all goes well. I can't think of anything more of a well-deserved tribute to a faithful citizen and a true friend for the town of Milford. Thank you, Dale. I would like to now, actually, I have one other note from Mr. Courage's son, Brian. His son, John, has flown in from down south, and of course his daughter, Sarah, is present, and his sister, Barbara, and brother-in-law, Morris. So, on behalf of Brian Palmer, first, my apologies, Bob, for not being in person today. It's pretty amazing to recognize someone for 70 years of service. I can tell you firsthand the passion, dedication, hard work, and pride my stepfather has for the town of Milford. 24/7, 7 days a week, from water breaks, different projects, snowstorms, selectmen, water, sewer, cemetery, meetings, he was there. Growing up, I was fortunate to have a number of jobs working for the town, and let's just say, Bob, as a leader, was pretty easygoing and not too intense. He's laughing right now, but I can tell you he treated all his employees equally, expecting their best and getting the job done right. A great example of this was moving rocks one summer at Keys Field, and him asking, "Have you been swimming?" I said, "No, this is hard work," as he's sweating. And to this day, I believe he still thinks I went swimming. I'm the person I am today because I got to witness your leadership, Bob. My example and unmatched work ethic. Your dedication to the town of Milford has not only shaped the community, but has also shaped me. Congratulations on 70 years of service, and thank you for being the standard for excellence for John, Sarah, and myself. I love you. Brian. So as my life went by, I went to school in Hawaii and would fly home every summer to work for the town. And vividly remember I'd call Mr. Courage. These were the days before you had to have 5 copies and stamps and so on. I'd call Mr. Courage down at the office at Town Hall, and I'd say, "Well, I'm coming home, Mr. Courage." I'd reach out in February, March, because there'd be a waiting list to get a job for the summer. And Bob Courage would answer the phone. "How you doing, Jay?" "Good." "How's that Hawaii weather?" "Good, Mr. Courage." "I'll be flying in May 17th. "Okay, so that's a Monday. Well, you're going to need to get some rest because that's a long way to come. So why don't you start Wednesday?" "Okay, Mr. Courage, 7 o'clock down the town barn. I'll see you there." "Okay, thanks, Mr. Courage." And it was written. I've been very blessed in my life to have a mentor such as him. Finally, I'd like to welcome Chairman of the Selectmen, Tim Finan, for a proclamation from the town of Milford and the Selectmen.
Well, thank you very much, Jay, and Bob and Sandra. It's an extreme honor to be able to come out here and on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, honor such an incredible person with such a great story. I do want to quickly share just 2 short anecdotes, and I have no doubt that Bob doesn't remember either of these, but Bob actually has a tie to me when I first came to town. I moved to town 30 years ago. As a matter of 1994 would be 30 years next month. My wife and I and our family moved into town. Now, my wife grew up here, but I had never. I was from somewhere else, so I knew nobody. I knew absolutely nobody in this town. And we moved in, we built a house up on Berkeley Place, which is just maybe a mile down here off of South Street, off of 13. It's a small street, 9 or 10 houses up there, and we were the second family on the street. So we got out when we moved in. Of course, the kids all want to go out and they're playing in the street. They're skateboarding and playing wiffle ball in the street. It was not much traffic, so I wasn't too concerned. But I thought it'd be really nice if we could get a sign, like a "Go Slow Children" sign or something. So I figured, I don't know how you go about doing this, so I thought I'd go down to Town Hall and see if I can find someone that can get us a sign. And as I said, I was brand new, so I wasn't even sure where Town Hall was. I knew the building that I thought was Town Hall, but it had, had a big sign that said library over the door. So I wasn't even sure where to go. So I go down to Town Hall, and I walk in. This is a true story. I walk in, and there's somebody, I don't know who it was, but I found somebody in the hallway, and I said, "Oh, excuse me, where would I go to inquire about having a sign made for my street?" And this person just said, "Oh, go see Bob. Bob will take care of that." And then they wander off down the hallway. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking, who the hell's Bob? I had no idea who they're referring to. So I found somebody else that gave me the same thing. "Go see Bob. He'll take care of you." So that's when I went. And I think your office was at Town Hall back then. Right, so I went to, and that's when I met Bob. And I explained to him the whole situation, and he said, "Oh, no problem, we'll take care of you." And sure enough, like 2 weeks later, I come home from work, and there's a brand new sign at the bottom of the street. And I always remembered Bob for that. And then, maybe a year or two later, I decided that I wanted to start getting involved in, volunteering for the town. I was trying to find something to do. And I read in the paper somewhere that the Recreation Commission was looking for volunteers. So I thought, okay, I'll go do that. So I had published the meeting, and it was a meeting actually right here in the conference room over at the pump house. And again, I knew not a soul. I didn't tell anybody I was coming. I just came down to the meeting, and I walk in, and who's sitting right there at the head of the table but Bob Courage. So my first two, experiences were with Bob. So and I've always remembered that, and I appreciate him quite a bit for that. So, so on behalf of the selectmen, we wanted to thank you, and in fact, on behalf of all the town employees, thank you for everything you did. All your services, all your committees have already been read through. Citizen of the Year, I don't think anybody mentioned that. He was Citizen of the Year a couple years ago. Grand Marshal of the Labor Day Parade. I've been honored to serve with him on the Recreation Committee, the Budget Committee, Traffic Safety, I think you were on. You've been on them all, so it's quite the and you're an inspiration as a volunteer for sure. So on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, and with all due respect to the state, this is a proclamation from your colleagues and from the people that your friends. So this is from the board. So a proclamation to recognize Robert E. Courage for 70 years of service to the Milford community. Whereas we are here today to express our appreciation to Robert E. Courage and honor him for a distinguished 38-year career with the town of Milford and dedicated service to the residents of Milford. And whereas Robert began his tenure with the Milford Public Works Department in 1954, serving until 1965, and subsequently from 1971 to 1998, advancing through the ranks to attain the position of superintendent and later director. And whereas Robert served 3 years on the Board of Selectmen, 18 years as a Water and Sewer Commissioner, a position he continues to hold to this day, and countless other boards and committees. And whereas Robert, a lifelong resident of Milford and role model for countless employees and volunteers, has demonstrated exceptional dedication to the community's welfare, tirelessly advancing municipal services to enhance Milford's health, safety, and well-being. And whereas, on behalf of the entire Board of Selectmen, we wish to express our sincere appreciation to Robert for his loyalty to the town and to wish him much happiness and success as he continues to serve our community. Therefore, the Board of Selectmen in the town of Milford, New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim April 21st, 2024 as Robert E. Courage Day in the town of Milford, and urge all citizens and employees to join us in congratulating Robert on an outstanding career with the town of Milford and expressing our sincere appreciation to him for his unwavering dedication and service to the town, signed and entered this 21st day of April 2024, and signed by the 5 selectmen.
Before I forget, Mr. Courage, I wanted to send a congratulations from 2 of your classmates that weren't able to be here today. That would be Libby Hayward and her sister Franny. They love you and they send their congratulations to you. As of recent, I've really had the honor once again, it's funny how life goes, to serve with Mr. Courage as a cemetery trustee. And him and I, we recently got quite a bit accomplished. We just were able to resurrect the water system at Riverside without using any tax dollars. He still teaches me to this day. And I learned a great deal from him. The importance of detail. That's the difference between greatness and dumpy, I remember him saying once. And it's the truth. At this point, I'd like to welcome, I believe, Representative Leishman, former Selectman Leishman, to say a few words.
So all of you that know Bob over the years, there was something he always did when he was happy that he got his way. You remember that? So anyway, I was fortunate enough to serve with Bob Courage I was on the board, the select board for 14 years. And when I was first elected, Bob took me into his office and he said, "This is how it's going to be done." So if you look around in this building here is because of Bob Courage. Bob came to the board and said, you know, we've got this rundown facility down next to the Souhegan River. And he said, that would be a great place for elderly housing. And we gave it some thought. Steve Crook, who I think has passed away, got together with the board and we made it happen. And so the elderly housing project down by the Swing Bridge is because of Bob Courage. And I can remember just driving the roads of Milford, and you'd see Bob stop, and he might even have a can of Roundup in his truck, and he'd spray that weed that was growing between the sidewalk and the curb. Nobody took better care of Milford. Nobody's left a better mark on Milford. And I thought I was coming over here to say that, well, you're retiring again, Bob, but I hear you're still on the Water Sewer Commission. And when I served with Bob on the Board of Selectmen, I had left the board and went over to the Water Sewer Commission, and Bob left the board and came over to the Water and Sewer Commission, I think just to keep an eye on me. But anyway, it's really good to see both you and Sandra, and congratulations on a life well lived. Thanks.
On that same note, as I'm sure many of you recall, on a Sunday afternoon, driving out on North River Road or Jennison Road, and here comes Bob and Sandra Courage, and Sandra taking little notes, you know, that sign needs to be done on the branch and so on. And as I said, we've all been blessed, truly blessed, to have what we have in the culture of Milford. Certainly, it takes a village, and we're all damn lucky to be part of the village that we're from. Mr. Courage, I thank you for everything, and I continue to thank you. I learn from you on a weekly basis, and I certainly wouldn't be the man I am today without your mentorship, so thank you. At this point, Mr. Courage would like to say a few words.
Well, again, I'd like to thank everyone who's in attendance today, and especially all those people who did so much to get this all together. I wish to thank the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, whom I worked with, and State Rep Ms. Sheehan, and I didn't get your name. Oh, Pastor Hoyt. And, well, thank you for all that, and I want to thank Jay for all the time that he's put into this. And my friends, Leo Lassard, the DPW director, and incidentally, Milford's damn lucky to have him. He's great, and he does a good job for us. I'd also like to recognize Jim Pouliot, our Water Utilities Director, who does a fabulous job for the town. And fellow board member Hunter Philbrick, if he's here. And as mentioned previously, Dale White, who is the other commissioner, was unable to attend. I'd just like to mention all these nice things they said about me here today are great, but unfortunately I can't walk on water, so I have some downsides too. So, but it comes to mind this facility right here. As Peter Leishman mentioned earlier, he was on the board. Steve Crook from New Ipswich, developer and builder, came into my office when I was in town hall and said, do you know where we could find a spot that we put up elderly housing? And so I immediately thought of that site where the facility is today. Now that piece of land down there, in my mind, it was a town bonds for 30 or 40 years site. It wasn't good for commercial development. And to me, it was just a piece of land that held the world together. So I had said, well, what about that site? And he went down, looked at it, and he felt that he could do what he wanted to do there. So I said, well, we got a piece of land on South Street that maybe we can put up a DPW facility. Well, as it worked out, we did a land swap. We swapped that piece of land for what you see here. Didn't cost the town a dime. And I think it still serves the needs of the town at the present time. Although they have a lot more equipment here today than I had to work with, believe me. But it's been a great ride working for the town and putting in the years of service, volunteer service, and I want to thank you all very much for attending today. This is an emotional time for me, and you know, when I took over DPW, I was 26 years old, and the job was offered to me for $90 a week. Back in 1957, I had worked 3 years for the town previously. And the Board of Selectmen called me in and offered me this job. At the same time, they offered the job to the police chief, a fellow by the name of Dwayne Rockwell. We were both young guys. Well, I came from a relatively construction background, and I was doing accounting and whatnot in the DPW office. And this was a big step. And I remember, I believe it was Selectman Hayward said, if you do a good job, Bob, you give me $95 next year. So It's been a long ride, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Courage. As I said, he is still extremely involved. As I said, with the water, resurrecting the water down at Riverside Cemetery, with his wisdom and direction, we were able to find a trust fund to cover it without using any tax dollars. It's kind of cool because I'm very much into history, and you drive down the street and he's like, yeah, Duffy, we put that in 72. Yeah, that one in 67. So it's really, really a blessing. He's an encyclopedia for the town, and it's how many towns can say that? So at this point, I'd like to unveil the plaque. This plaque will, as I said, was funded by the Keys Trust. It will hang outside the vestibule next door, next to the office, Director Lasage's office. Mr. Courage's image is engraved. It says, in honor of Robert E. Courage, Milford native son, DPW director for 38 years, 70 plus years of town service. On behalf of a grateful town, we thank you for your service. 2024. As I said earlier, the chapels and the Whites weren't able to attend as they had a church event. Mr. Courage, the Chapel family would like me to present this coat to you on their behalf, and thank you for all your years of service. I'd like to welcome Reverend Hoyt for the benediction.
Now, I know the only thing standing between you and refreshment is me, so I want to thank Jay for inviting me. And I want to remind you that besides Bob, Sandy has been there and supporting him through this whole trip. And I think that she deserves also a round of applause. So without further comment, Bob, Sandy, congratulations. Holy One, we thank you for this opportunity to bless, and we ask that you bless Bob and Sandy for a long and healthful and happy retirement, if there is such a thing. And we ask you to bless us all and keep us always mindful of the needs of others. Amen.
On behalf of a grateful town, Mr. Courage, thank you for all the years of service and the future endeavors. Thank you.
Great. You're getting me emotional up there.